unit is responsible for program support, communication and coordination. So first of all, I would like to thank the Committee of Regions for its kind offer to make available these very nice premises for this meeting. It's in fact the first time that CINEA organizes an event with representatives of regions and municipalities. So we did not were aware of an existing network of your type of organization. So Sarah did a lot of research and investigation to identify as much as possible of these offices. And therefore, I think this is also a great occasion to get to know one another and maybe also explore opportunities for future exchanges. And just to get an idea, maybe I would like to do a little hand-raising exercise. Who's coming from the north of Europe? Yes. Who's coming? So maybe you can look around so that you can already make connections also. Who's coming from the south of Europe? Who's coming from East Europe? So we have all the regions. And who's coming from Central and Western Europe? Yeah. So I think we have all the regions of Europe represented here. That's very good. So maybe I will first shortly present you the agenda of today's meeting. So after the introduction, we will have a keynote speech from Kevin Flowers, who will give you some background of Green Assist. It was DG Environment, in fact, who was initiating this initiative. So I think it's very interesting to also understand why this initiative was taken and then also have a more general policy background. Then we will deep dive into Green Assist itself with presentations from various colleagues from both CINEA and ECORIS. ECORIS is the consultant who helps CINEA with the implementation of Green Assist. Then I think we will deserve a coffee break, and after the coffee break we will have, well, in the agenda you see debate with beneficiary and expert, but I would rather call it a friendly chat with both an expert and beneficiary of Green Assist, so that you can also see it from a more, how it works and how it can work from a more practical point of view. And then Sarah will give you an introduction on the promotion of Green Assist through your networks and constituencies. And then there will also be the possibility for questions and answers, although we may also pick up some questions during the various sessions during the agenda. And then we will conclude by noon. That's the agenda for today, and I would like now maybe shortly present to you CINEA, because many of you may not have heard yet about about our organization. CINEA is in fact an executive agency which has been created by the Commission to help implementing a number of funding programs, and we implement the funding programs that are articulated around the support to the EU Green Deal. We have the Horizon Europe program, so Europe's research and innovation program, and we implement the cluster 5 of that, which is about climate, energy and mobility. We also implement the Innovation Fund program, which is sourced by the proceeds from the sales of the allowances of the emission trading system, and with this money, which is paid by the big polluting companies, we finance for the same type of companies innovation projects that help them to reduce CO2 emissions. The Connecting Europe facility is our biggest program that supports mainly cross-border infrastructure in transport and energy, also aiming to make these sectors more sustainable. Then, very important also the LIFE program, which is in fact the funding program of Green Assist. And this is a program that finances environment and climate action. And then we have a number of smaller programs like the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund that supports the sustainable blue economy, the renewable energy financing mechanism that supports and facilitates investment in renewable energy. And then finally also the public sector loan facility of the Just Transition mechanism that supports fair and clean energy transition. Overall, we manage under the current multi-annual financial framework 55 billion with less than 600 persons, so it's a huge amount, also indicating how efficient we are as an agency. But the main topic today is about Green Assist, which is a fantastic initiative under the LIFE program. And I gladly pass now the floor to DG Environment, who is I would say, the initiator and the mentor of this initiative. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everybody. So I'm Kevin Flowers. I'm the Deputy Head of Unit of the unit in DG Environment that deals with green finance and investment. So we're dealing both, in a sense, with the public funding side of things, as well as supporting colleagues, mostly in DG FSMA, with the sustainable finance agenda. So what I wanted to do very quickly in the next 15, 20 minutes is, before we get into the nitty-gritty of how the Green Assist program operates and what it can bring to you in your regions with advisory support, just to go a little bit into the political context, because things are evolving rather rapidly and rather interestingly, mostly in a positive sense. So just to step right back to where we are and what's been driving the green investment agenda and the green financing agenda, we need to, of course, touch back to the European Green Deal with the environmental policy priorities that were set out in that Green Deal. It's been an ambitious program. There's been a lot put through the system, certainly at what we would call the first level of regulation, so directives and regulations themselves. There's now quite a lot of homework to do to bring in a lot of secondary legislation, so delegated acts, implementing acts. I'm not going to say the number, but it is a big number. And so we will be quite busy, certainly in DG Environment, as will the Commission, putting the substance, the more technical substance, into a lot of our new regulations, the nature of the NRL and many others I could list. But the interesting thing about that is that it therefore creates a new learning curve that a lot of stakeholders need to begin to understand and adapt to. And we hope also that it will help direct and support the investment that we need to get to our agreed environmental objectives. So, but we are now, as we see with the political guidelines that have been put on the table by the Commission under Ursula von der Leyen's guidance, and we see now with the election of the college designate, and if we look into the mission letters of these of the commissioners designate, it's quite an interesting story that is emerging. And a part of the background to that, we have the Draghi report that recently landed on EU competitiveness. We have the letter report that was delivered in April on the single market situation. And we have additional things such as the strategic dialogue on the future of EU agriculture that was recently delivered by Professor Strohschneider. When you start to step back and put the elements that line up together, you start to see a fairly clear picture emerging of what the political priorities will be. But what I would underline is that whilst it's no longer the flag-waving center of the Commission's agenda, the European Green Deal is still there, very much so. There's no pullback on the ambition of the European Green Deal. Whilst there is a focus on things like simplification and some administrative burden reduction, the intention is not to pull back on our climate objectives and targets and our environmental ambition. So that is still there, but the language and the narrative is morphing, I would say, is evolving into an industrial clean industrial deal. So we see terms like turbocharging investment, more focus on innovation, and particularly commercialization. The EU is actually not bad at innovating. In fact, we're quite good at innovating. We come up with lots of good ideas, but we do less well in taking those ideas into commercial success. And a lot of our ideas leak to other parts of the world where they get commercialized, particularly the US. So there's a focus on that. There's a focus on improved digital technology diffusion and taking the benefits of that into our productivity outcomes. There's quite a strong narrative around being more circular and resilient and autonomous, and indeed skills and labor. I was just with interest reading for another presentation I have to do tomorrow on the Draghi report. I was reading with interest the OECD employment forecast that was just produced in August. Some quite interesting numbers in there in how in terms of the number of green jobs they see being created and will be created from now to 2030, which is on balance far bigger than the jobs that will be lost. But there is, of course, a change in the quality of some of those jobs. Some of them are high-end professional jobs, but of course you can imagine things in waste transport and such are not as high-end as perhaps some of the jobs that get lost in fossil fuel-intensive sectors. But it's interesting to see that the overall direction of travel is a net increase in jobs in the OECD countries, and quite a big one. But that requires skills, so those transitions require skill retraining. Done well, it works well. Ignored, it causes all sorts of the social tensions we know. So all of these things orientated around a narrative of sustainable competitiveness, but you can hear that what I'm trying to get to is that there's a lot of advisory support needed in this. And so let's just go to the next slide. So if we look at the new college designate and the mission letters, as I said, the objectives are reconfirmed. If we dive down into the Environment Commissioner's letter, and the Commissioner designate is Jessica Roswell, the Swedish candidate, there's an enhanced focus on implementation, but also working on incentives and investments and making things simpler and more coherent. So we can expect to see quite some focus on ensuring that what we have put on the table is well implemented in the member states. There's clearly, you read the cross, it's like a big puzzle, but if you look across the different mission letters for the new commissioners, you'll see many cross-links working together with, supporting this person with that. So in a way you might say there's a divide and conquer, but it's certainly a much more required collaborative approach. And so it will mean new ways of working, even for DG Environment, to get policy done. There's also clearly, I haven't written that here, but there's clearly a push towards more incentivization and less hard, less stick, less hard regulation. So we can expect to see these things getting attention. Very encouragingly, nature is called out quite clearly and putting it on the balance sheet. In other words, taking this currently free capital and creating some market incentives around it and ensuring that its value is taken into account both in policy making and in commercial decision making. So we can expect to see some attention around that. And the other one that's called out is the water resilience strategy. So in particular, facilitating public-private investments in the technology and infrastructure that's needed to deal with the three broad topics of water resilience. So water resource, water quality, and water adaptation. So we'll certainly see some direction, some communication, some strategies coming out around these topics in the next year or so. So let's step back and have a look at our current multi-annual financial framework. It's a big thing, although actually it's a tiny thing compared to the federal US budget, but it's still a relatively large amount of money. In total, about 2 trillion euros will be dispersed and used and invested over the course of the 7 years of the current MFF. 1.2 trillion of that is in the actual classic multi-annual financial framework, our normal budget, if you want to call it like that. And then, of course, we had this Next Generation EU, the response to the COVID crisis, which raised, it raised 806 billion, of which 338 are grants and 385 are loans, currently being dispersed primarily under the RRF program. And a lot of that going through the EIB, not all of it, but I think it's about 75% is being handled through the EIB. So we've got big numbers, lots of money. We also have lots of programs at the moment, lots of funding programs. I think it's over 40 different funding programs currently dispersing money in one way or the other. And so we need to look at these things carefully to make sure that, one, that we are getting the money to where we need it to go for meeting our environmental policy objectives, but we also have to respect the do no significant harm principle, which means that we need to make sure that funds going for other purposes, whether it's transport, climate, agriculture, do so in a way that isn't actually adding to our environmental challenges. So we have a sort of double element. And again, so I'm trying to underline there's a lot of advisory advice that's needed for making all of this happen. So just quickly, we have environmental allocations we hope would reach over 280 billion, 14% of the overall budget, so about 40 billion a year coming out of the EU budget towards environmental action and targets. The climate earmarking is higher and is related to tracking of 30% in the MFF and 37% of the Next Generation EU funding, so it's a high target that's being aimed for. We have a biodiversity ambition. It's not a hard target, but it's an ambition to reach 7.5% of MFF funding in 2024 and 10% in the next 2 years, in 2026 and 27. So I should say 24 and 25. We have a natural capital and circular economy initiative to be handled via the InvestEU. This is essentially a leveraging initiative where we take a certain amount of EU funding and we try to crowd in private sector investment for nature and circular economy action. I'll come to this a little. Well, so we have an annual investment need, which is obviously much larger. It's 340 billion per year. But when we look at that and see what we are already spending and project to spend, we can do the maths and we estimate, and that's the blue box on the right at the top there, we estimate an annual investment gap of about 114 billion euros a year. And this is not sort of this direct climate. This is the other parts of the environment. So water, biodiversity, nature, pollution prevention control, and circular economy action. And what you see running through a lot of this is a focus on trying to crowd in more private sector finance, so blended finance actions, guarantee actions, things like this. So we can leverage the funding that we, as essentially you and us as taxpayers, have put into the EU budget to get the most bang for our euro. I need to wrap up, don't I? How long have I got? I've got until 8:30. Yes. Okay. All right, so time. Good. It's a very well-placed clock, and it visually clicks every minute. Okay, so there's quite a bit of European Green Deal advisory support, but it's interesting to think a bit about what sorts of support we would want. So the most obvious and immediate is support to increase the direct, what I'd call the direct environment investment project pipeline. So how do we get the money to the sorts of nature biodiversity restoration actions, water infrastructure investment, pollution prevention control actions? How do we increase the pipeline and the demand for the funding and to the projects that matter the most, that actually give the biggest environmental return for the investment? So that's the first obvious area where the advisory support can be useful. The other one, as I mentioned earlier, is mainstreaming and do no significant harm. So providing support to actors, project promoters and so forth who are trying to figure out, what does this do no significant harm mean? How do I do this transport project, this energy project in a way that doesn't, squeeze the balloon out somewhere else for the environmental footprint? And the last is the enabling part, which is something that I personally have an interest in, which is helping people understand all this sustainable finance regulation, for example. So there are a number of enabling features that are coming that will help ultimately nudge and drive investment and demand, and what can we do from an advisory point of view to support that? So that brings us to the Green Assist. It's targeted specifically to support environment and help build the pipeline of bankable projects. That's its primary purpose. It's also aiming to contribute to the 10 billion euro natural capital and circular economy initiative that I talked about earlier, and strengthen the green investments and greening of the other sectors. So it's orientated, so it comes from life funding. There'll be more detail on this in the next presentation, so I'm not going to overstep and create a duplication. But broadly speaking, we have the EU Advisory Hub top-up to be implemented by the EIB, and then the Green Assist program itself implemented by CINEA. So a total of 50 million euros coming out of the LIFE program, 20 to the EU Advisory Hub under the EIB's guidance, and 30 million into the CINEA managed and implemented process. It sits in a broader set of EU advisory support mechanisms. Even just I'll point you to the EU Vademecum if you're not aware of that. It's a fairly thorough document that was put together about 2 years ago, where you can find out in that multitude of different EU funding programs what bits are orientated towards environmental funding and financing. So it's a sort of doorway into the details of what you could potentially go and ask for or seek funding for. We have the technical assistance, which the Green Assist is part of, the EU Advisory Hub. We have other instruments such as under the DG reform, we have the technical support instrument, TSI, aimed primarily at government authority and local authority, or mainly government support. We have a series of things we are doing to help ensure that the do no significant harm principle is implemented through our funding programs. A good example is the guidance document that was developed for the RRF funding program. And so that brings me to the last slide, broadly, just to why are you here and why do we do today? Well, let's remember that most environment policy is implemented at regional and local level. So how do we best magnify EU public funding? By crowding in private sector investment. Can we coordinate with, for example, with other national regional actors such as the national promotional banks? I'll come back to that. And the Green Assist program is specifically targeted to support all this. So Mark and I were just talking before we started the session today, and I was just sharing with him some meetings that we've been having from the DG Environment side with some of the European member state national promotional banks, and finding there were some really interesting systems that have been put up. We were targeted on nature and biodiversity, but for example, the French BPI, National Promotional Bank, has quite a sophisticated program to provide advisory support around decarbonization transition planning for local companies in local areas. And they connect them with experts. They have a very similar setup to the Green Assist. They have a roster of experts. They run peer-to-peer workshops to help businesses figure out how to do their decarbonization plan. So there are others out there that can be part of a leveraging and working with and supporting the Green Assist process. So thank you for your attention. I hope that situates a little bit the Green Assist. We are definitely going to see a lot of action around investment under the next EU, a lot of attention to it. And the green part will be, I mean, obviously a lot of that is going to be around broader productivity, competitiveness, decarbonisation. But the other green part, the environment part, is not forgotten. It's not being pushed off the edge of the table. So we can expect to see more of that. The one thing I didn't say, of course, is there's work going on for the next MFF and what that will be like. I can't say much about it other than that it will, some of the language is out there about making it simpler, gearing it towards conditionality actions on member states. But I think we will see an interesting evolution once it's been through the negotiation process. I do not think the next MFF will look identical to the current one. There will be some quite interesting changes proposed, at least, down the pipeline. So I'll stop with that and hand over to the next person.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Definitely interesting times, very interesting presentation also. Thanks a lot. And yeah, now it's all about investment, project pipeline, and indeed, Green Assist is a very topical subject for this period of time. I think we have we have time for a few questions to Kevin. Would anybody have a question at this stage? We will have afterwards also the possibility to ask questions, but if you already have one question now or two, we can already ask it. Yes, the lady in the front.
Hi, thank you. So just a question.
You can do both, I think, actually, is the answer. I mean, the Green Assist is an advisory process. The funding happens to come, so the funding for the expert, the funding for the people doing the work comes from LIFE. But there's nothing to stop you also making an application directly to LIFE. Of course, if you're applying for the same thing through both routes, somebody would pick that up, clearly. Is that right? Was that a fair answer? Yes.
Thank you, Kevin. Other questions? Yes?
Please, will you answer us whether hydrogen solutions will also be encompassed with that Green Assist solutions and advisories?
Question for you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. For hydrogen, indeed, with the hydrogen bank, there is a lot of focus now for the moment. And in order to support the hydrogen production, we have different instruments which are dedicated to that. So this is the Innovation Fund, where we have even dedicated auctions to hydrogen, whereby companies come forward with a promise for producing volumes of hydrogens against a specific price, and as it is an auction, the ones that propose the lowest price for the production has the highest chance of receiving the funding. Apart from that, there's also the regular support under the innovation call when more innovative projects for the production of hydrogen can also be supported, I would say, next to the auction instrument. So we have dedicated programs to support hydrogen, and this is not the focus of Green Assist.
Can I add?
Yes, please.
Just to add, because it's an interesting question exactly about the scope of Green Assist. So it is not intended primarily as a climate action program. It's aiming at environment policy in the narrower sense of the word environment, so water and pollution and so on. But you could imagine that there might be a request around a do no significant harm element, right? That there's a hydrogen plant being built and trying to understand what the nature or local potential pollution impacts might be of a desalination plant or something like this. So there is potentially a route for requesting advice, but it's not primarily aimed at sort of the actual climate and decarbonization action. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin, for this additional clarification. Other questions? If not, then I think it's time to deep dive into Green Assist, and I give now the floor to my colleague, Gauthier Clar. He's a financial engineer in CINEA, and he will explain you in more detail what Green Assist is about and how it differs from other advisory initiatives. Gauthier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark. Maybe I need to... Yes, this one. Yes, good morning to everyone. I'm Gauthier Clar, Senior Financial Engineer at CINEA, and this morning I have the pleasure with colleagues from Ecoris, Christina, and my colleague Christophe to present you what is Green Assist and how it is different. On my side, I will start with a few slides with an overview of Green Assist, and then I'll pass the floor to my colleagues. So an outline of the Green Assist with 4 points: what, why, how, and who. By that time, it's very clear that Green Assist is an advisory. It provides advisory services, and it provides this service to prepare for greener investment. And thank you, Kevin, for clarifying what we mean by greener. It's about environment in core environmental services. The second thing to understand, it's really that it's there to help to build a pipeline of green investment. So the notion of investment is key in the structure and the design and the objective of Green Assist. What we mean by investment is really investment on the ground. It can be direct capital expenditure by the project, what we call the project owners, but it can also be along the supply chain. So, for example, we very much like new technologies that, when they are implemented, will have a positive environmental effect along the supply chain. So it's not only investment at the level of the beneficiary, but also it could be for stakeholders of the beneficiary along the supply chain. On the how, it's on-demand, free, and customized. So on-demand means that we depend on the requests reaching Green Assist. And this is why we're here this morning, because we trust that you can help us very much to generate more requests on your hand. And it's free because CINEA is going to pay for the expert delivered. The beneficiary itself has nothing to pay. It's customized, and it goes, I guess, with on-demand, is because the advisory services that are going to be provided are kind of defined together with the beneficiary, and Green Assist strives to provide the advisory service that are really needed by the beneficiary to the extent possible. How, and I will come back on that in the next slide, we have two different delivery mechanisms. One is a project advisory that is delivered by specialized experts, and the second is enabling advisory, which is delivered by consultancies. In both cases, the specialized expert and the consultancy are paid by CINEA. For whom? It's available to private and public beneficiaries, so not only you, but your stakeholders mostly. In diversified sectors, I'm going to say a word, but before I get to the next slide, it's important to understand that Green Assist cannot cover all the angles. So there are other advisory support instruments within the Commission, and we apply what we call a best fit criteria. So, for example, as we cannot cover all the angle, if we see, for example, that the request is about, I don't know, energy efficiency, then, of course, there are other programs. EIB can do that, ELENA. So we don't provide advisory, and we want to avoid overlap with better suited, let's say, advisory support instrument within the Commission. The activities and sectors targeted, as you can see, I mean, there is a lot of information on the slide. I'm not going to go all over the sectors, but shortly, we cover and we provide advisory services in the field of biodiversity, natural capital, circular economy, and also, and that's the last block in red below, also to the traditional economic sectors, so including energy, for example, but we talked about that earlier with the example that, Kevin, you gave. So for you and your stakeholders, I just want to point to the nature and biodiversity restoration. Of course, anything related to climate change adaptation and flood prevention. The water sector we talked about, the waste sector. So you can see, in a nutshell, you know, Greenhouse provide advisory service in most sectors that where your constituent, your stakeholders have an interest. And there are very few sectors left aside. I'm not going to name them now, but there are some sectors left aside. But the key thing to remember is that when you go and you speak and you interface with your stakeholders, you can rest assured that there is something in it for them with Greenhouse. Why? Is because, as we mentioned earlier, I mean, you know, all these stakeholders have environmental concern, and it's it's still quite challenging to apply best practices. So this is what Green Assist is for, to help project owners to apply best practices. As I said earlier, there are two forms of delivery mechanism. The first one is what we call the project advisory, and the second one is the enabling advisory. The first one is really directed to project owners, people having a project, as I defined earlier, either direct capital expenditure or any kind of project that would have a positive environmental effect on their supply chain. The first one, project advisory, is actually provided by experts that we, with ECORIS, we have selected and that are grouped together in what we call a roster. At the moment, we have above, I guess, 320, I would say, rough figures this morning, experts in the roster. And just to give you a sense of magnitude of the support that we have provided so far, the assignment that we have in our portfolio so far, it provides in between 20 to 80 expert days. The average is 50, I guess, and over assignment of 3 to 6 months. And these are ballpark figures. I mean, we can do more or we can do longer because what actually we want to achieve is end-to-end advisory services that make a difference, trying to get the project owners as close as possible from the investment. So technically, what Green Asset provides to the project owners with these experts, and yeah, maybe I can say that in most cases it's one expert for an assignment, but we have actually several cases where we combine the expertise of, let's say, 2 experts. Could be more, but so far it's 2 experts. So the type of advisory that you can expect or your stakeholders can expect to find when making a request to Green Assist is project preparation, development or implementation. So of course, as Kevin said, we would like very much to help those projects to get access to, let's say, other sources of funds. And this is why there is a strong component of business plan validation, valorization or monetization of externalities. That is also something that we want to help. And last but not least, blending and combined use of funds. with this, the key thing to remember is that expert can help your project owners or beneficiary to identify source of funds within the Commission. And we hope also private equity, venture capital, banks, and these kind of things. But of course, for obvious reason, the expert cannot help, obviously, to make to draft an application for grant to the Commission. So, yeah, the expert at most can say a word about the various type of support within the Commission, but will not go further on that direction. The other delivery mechanism that you can see on the right is what we call the enabling advisory. So typically, this is a broader advisory. Because it's broader, it lasts longer, 6 to 12 months, but we have assignment that would go probably longer. It's provided by consultancies because the requests, let's say, have very different perspective. It can be also a request brought by multipliers, and it's why it's really relevant for use this morning. So we add to, and these services cannot be provided by one or even two experts. So instead, for enabling advisory, the advisory services are provided by consultancies that we have pre-selected in the scope of our framework contract. So within enabling advisory, the beneficiary, which can be project owner or multipliers, can expect to have capacity building services, market development activities. So anything basically where the beneficiary needs firepower, replicability, training, reaching out to other project owners, you can find that under the enabling advisory. So again, to keep in mind that it's not enabling advisory completely in a vacuum. It has to have a strong link with generation of a pipeline of project on the ground, only that it can be indirect through the interface of a multiplier, for example. I think that, yes, before I pass the floor, you will get more details about the project advisory from my colleague Christina Ekoris and Christophe on enabling advisory. But before I pass the floor to Christina, I would like to summarize what you can expect from Green Assist. And just to keep in mind that, Kevin, you said that we want things to be simple. I think that with Green Assist we are fairly much in advance on that because it's actually very simple. And I guess by the end of this morning you will be convinced of that. So it's an easy application and in process. It's not a call. It's not a call. There is no call, no deadline. That's already a good news. The application we have can be made either through CINEA or through the InvestEU platform, the portal. So it's really easy to make an application. And the link process, I do not expand now because Christina will talk about that. You can also expect professional support and objective matching by the expert that are selected first in a roster and then, of course, selected to be for each assignment, for each advisory services. The advisory services are provided by independent experts. They express their own view. It's not the view of the Commission, which ensures credibility, and credibility is key to your stakeholders, of course, and interactivity. For us, it was very important. It's very important that you stakeholders, the project owners, can interface directly with the expert. So, a minimal interference. It's continuous support. We want it to be end-to-end to make a difference. It's neutral in terms of financial partners, i.e. the expert is not supposed to point you in the, or to put you in the end of any, let's say, financial partner. And of course, I think it's very clear, it's free access. And the last part is transparency and accountability, because, of course, the beneficiary, because it's free, we expect the beneficiary to act transparently and accountable, and to be accountable as well, to try and do its best efforts to make best use of the advisory service, and to try really to use this advisory service when implementing its project and the investment. With this last slide, I'm going to pass the floor to Christina to tell us about more in details about the project advisory. Christina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Christina. I'm a research and policy and research consultant at Equores, and as mentioned already, we were. No, it's not working. Yeah. Okay. Hi, sorry, I'll start again. My name is Christina. I'm a consultant in the Policy and Research Unit in Equores, which is a research-based consultancy working mainly on the European market, and we are helping CINEA to deliver this project. And essentially what we do is we screen the requests and also help project promoters find the right experts and develop the right work program. So I'm just going to dive into the projects and the support that we provide. So there are essentially three very important questions that every project promoter should ask. Essentially we have asked, do I know someone, or am I a project promoter who has an investment project? Does the project have an environmental objective? And does the project promoter have faced technical or business challenges? If yes, we advise you to apply or to spread the word through your networks, to engage your members, through newsletters, through social media channels, or events that you may be attending or organizing. And how Green Assist actually supports projects. So the key benefits are that your project can grow. So it's already been mentioned that the advisory support is very tailored to the projects and based on what they need. Essentially, it would also help connect with the best experts from a roster of over 320 experts, if I'm not mistaken, which is growing by every week. And they are spread across Europe, but also around the world, with various expertise in business or technical advisory. And essentially, the advisory should help the project seize investment afterwards. So in a span of 6 to 9 months to 1 year, the project should end up with securing investment. There are three types of projects that we support. So green investment project that face technical challenges, and what we provide in terms of support is technical feasibility checks, life cycle assessment, greenhouse gas calculations. There is also green projects that face business challenges. This is review or development of a business model, financial modeling, identification of investors, preparation of pitches to investors, and review of cash flow simulations. And the third project type is investment projects, more broader investment projects that want to enhance the environmental performance. In there, the support varies from greening of their business models, circularity assessments, energy efficiency assessments, improving their business procedures to reduce the natural resource needs, or identification of potential lower carbon footprints. The types of project promoters we expect are public or private, or a public-private partnership. So we are quite open in that, and the investment that is expected after the delivery of the services is mainly private, but sometimes also a mixture of public and private investment. We've provided an example of a project that we currently have in our pipeline. So it's in the traditional sector, forestry sector, but it's cross-cutting with natural capital and biodiversity preservation, so it's quite interesting. It's based in France. The investment is of 30 million euros, and we selected one expert for this specific assignment with 77 working days over 6 months. So again, very tailored. We found an expert through our roster of experts, specifically in France, in the forestry sector, to help with the development of a framework for forestry assets assessment. So it also includes field visits if this is necessary, development of a methodology for enhancing the carbon capture and the biodiversity impacts, also including reporting. So essentially the creation of KPIs that are needed for the project to apply for the SRDF Article 9, to become an Article 9 fund, and to also the support included a framework for carbon capture for forestry projects specifically, and in order to enhance the carbon capture and biodiversity of the project. There is some practical advice that we included also to help you or your stakeholders apply easily. Through InvestEU portal, there are a few steps that are important to consider while applying. So you need to select the advisory support needs. It's very easy. It's a tick box. You can select from project identification, planning, financial structuring. Then you need to select your project sector, so energy, environment, sustainable, bioeconomy, etc. Afterwards, you will be asked to select the type of project promoter, public-private or public-private partnership. Include a project description where we would like to ask you to outline your needs as best as possible and indicate the estimated project cost of the project in euros, of course. And indicate what actions have already been taken. So do you already have a business plan? Do you already have market and sector studies done, or investment cost estimates done for the project? What to focus on the request? So because the part where you include the project description is quite limited in terms of words, the thing that we would like you to focus mostly on is the objectives and the scope of the project, the geographical location, but also the concrete advisory support needs that you have. So business advisory to enhance your investment readiness, or technical advisory to enhance the environmental performance of the project, and of course the environmental impact of the project. What happens once you submit your request through InvestEU? Well, it is directed to CINEA, who review the request and allocate it to Green Assist and send it to us at Equaris, where we check the completeness of the information. If we have enough information, we continue with the process. If we need a bit more clarification, we will contact you and send you a clarification questionnaire. Once this is done, we check the eligibility of the request against a few very easy criteria, basically whether you have an environmental impact, whether you have a credible investment project, whether it's based in the EU or the live participating countries. And once this is established and confirmed by CINEA, we identify and pre-select a few experts, and we match the right one or two experts to the project, and together with the experts and the beneficiary, tailor the work program to the needs of the beneficiary as much as possible. And afterwards, when this is confirmed and established by all parties, we launch the support officially. So the key points that you need to remember for Green Assist is that it's free of charge, that it addresses bankable and non-bankable projects, so no matter of the maturity of the project, you can apply. It mobilizes tailored expert support, which is very beneficial, because there is one or two experts that work directly with the project and help you with any questions or matters that you need help with. And what we expect to see is, of course, the environmental impact of the project, and the type of support that you need. That is, I can pass it on to Christoph for the enabling services.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Krzysztof Jęcielak, and I work also in CINEA together with Gauthier and Mark on the implementation on Green Assist. So now that you have absorbed all the information and you might be already thinking about a project that you might have in your region, or maybe some of your stakeholders would like to implement something that is focused on improving the environment and meeting the objectives of Green Deal, the environmental objectives, which has been translated in Green Assist into the three main sectors, which we call natural capital, biodiversity, and circular economy. So if you're within these 3 sectors, or maybe also others, where you do not any harm to the environment, then it can also happen that instead of a particular specific project which needs one consultant to advise, and as you have seen, the scope is usually around 30, maybe 50 working days, can be some more. You might also have some smaller entities that are a bit lost in all the environmental ideas and need a little bit of support as well. And maybe they are organized in an organization or association, or you have a development agency in your region that is also taking care of smaller beneficiaries, SMEs, that would like also some support on the sustainable finance, how to report it, how to prepare it. So then we come to the other part of Green Assist, which has been called enabling advisory. And here, basically, you apply the same way. So you can go to InvestEU portal. There is the central entry point. It's the name of the part of the portal where you can apply. And basically, it's a very smooth, simple process that takes much less than our presentation. If you have a good project and you know what you want to do, it's less than 10 minutes. If you don't know what you want to do, it will take much more time. So when you prepare and you have something in the mind, also the idea of our advisory service is, in fact, to help you to make the next step, so to advance a little bit. So basically, it will not help you if you have no idea what you want to do, but if you know more or less what to do, but you are a little bit stuck because of technical issues or because of financial issues or because the setup of the project or how to make it sustainable, how to make it work, this is the place also for Green Assist to help you and advise you what to do to make this project work or to make it bankable and to make it also sustainable in a way. So in the case where you have a little bit of more beneficiaries, more entities, or for example you have a cluster in your region that's also working on some environmental solutions, or they would like to change some materials, implement new products that are more environmental friendly, we can also provide this capacity building activities, what was also already mentioned by the colleagues, in the form of training, coaching, and some guidance, also supporting to write some documents, which can be made used by more entities. So it's also a project where you have more entities, and we call it like a multiplier. So we have a stakeholder that, for example, has many members. It can be an organization or a cluster, as I mentioned already. And there we can support these activities. And next to the capacity building, we have also market development studies, which can also support the development of a product, of a solution, and so on for some entities. This part also provides a little bit of project investments, but it's maybe a bigger scope than the part on the traditional part of project investment that was explained by Gauthier and Christina. And here this part of enabling advisor works a little bit different. We have a contract with 4 consulting companies which have been selected in a public procurement process, and we have a framework contract with them. This is Deloitte, Ernst & Young, PwC, and Ricardo. And the way it works is that you express your interest in the advisory service. You indicate what you really need, what you would like to provide, how this project will translate and improve the environment, or how it will translate into some investment project, because it might be also that these beneficiaries in a cluster organization, they will have some smaller projects, and they will also contribute to the environmental objectives. So what is most important here is what you want to do. So this is the action, and how you want to do, what is the scope, and why. So what are the goals? What are the goals for you, and how will the environment benefit from your projects? And so then you send the request, and we also work together on the request. So here's also important to remember that in both parts, the applicant, or the requester, how we call it, plays an important role and contributes to the creation of the final scope and description of the project. And this goes both for the advisory services and the enabling advisory. So here is more what colleagues have been presenting, is that the expert works with the potential beneficiary, and they create the common scope of the project regarding the aspects where we can really support and provide help, and what the project promoter needs, because sometimes there's also some guidance needed. So here it's similarly that we work together on the final project scope. So we review it from the perspective of our objectives, of the environmental objectives, and you see what you really need and in which areas we can help, because we cannot help in all areas, but we can see where our support will be most efficient in a defined timeline. So we work on the work plan, the actions and the scope. The request for support, you can introduce it yourself. You can also send an email to us, and we can help you to introduce it or introduce it for you. But it's also good. You can in fact explore even this afternoon. You can have a look on the request. It's not very complicated. And so what happens now? Here this takes a little bit of more time because we are bound by the framework contract with the contractors. So we have to launch a small competition among the contractors when we have already the document ready and the scope of project described, and they provide us with offers, which we review, and we select the best offer. Best offer meaning the best quality and the smallest price. There's a combination of these two. And based on this, there's a ranking, and the best offer wins. And then you get in touch with the contractor, and you work together with the contractor. We don't interfere in the meantime, and you can also choose how you want to meet, what they will report, what will happen. So it's basically we provide you the contractor for your use in a defined framework and in a defined capacity, and let's say like number of work days and so on. And then, of course, once the consultancy is done, I mean, now for the projects that we're working on, usually the duration exceeds 6 months up to a year. So it's more or less around 9 months, basically the average. We have one project I will show you that lasts 2 years, but it's something different. It's an exceptional project. And so basically here, it's, as you see, the advisory service is quite long, because 6-9 months of involvement, of 9 or even a year, it's a lot. But it's also the idea, I mean, if you have capacity building, you do some actions and activities in time to really provide a useful service. And so when it's completed, the consultants, they're reporting to us, so we have to validate what they have been provided, to see what they have provided, and of course, like, there is always a survey also to you if you have been happy with the service provided, because in the ultimate objective is to support the project and not to make the contract happy. So I will now show you the case that we have already working. It's based on LIFE program. In LIFE program, there are projects that have some environmental, it's usually small environmental projects. And in these projects, the beneficiaries, so the project promoters, they are obliged also to establish after LIFE plan. So basically, when they conclude the project of LIFE, they have also to show what they will do in the future. And here we have launched close-to-market support, because LIFE supports also the close-to-market activities. So the project promoters, they would like to implement something and also need a little bit of support. And it's also in the part of enabling advisory. This has been contracted for 4 years, and the value is 2 million. And this provides the projects that have already been supported from LIFE program, so they have this implementation plan. And in the implementation of the plan after the project, this service can help them to with a business coaching or mentoring, or to provide assistance to find like some financial operators, also like project mapping and so on. So basically, when they want to implement their plan for after LIFE, they can seek a little bit of support. And this advisory is limited only to 3 working days. So it's not that much. So it's like a really small support, but it's sometimes like the kick that you need to start your ideas and to implement them. So as you see, this tool, in fact, provides, it's only limited to life-funded project, but this provides a small advisory service of few days, in exceptional cases when there is really big value of the project and we see that it's needed. There can be, of course, a little bit more of the days, but it's subject to an evaluation. So this provides this few days. Then we have the project advisory service, which has several days, let's say 20, 30 to 50, 60. And then the enabling advisory, that is already a more thorough support that provides with a more complex project. So that would be all from me. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much, Christophe Gauthier, and also to the colleague from ECRIS, Christina. Are there any questions? Because we have some time for some questions before we go into the coffee break. Maybe the first person in the front here.
Yes, hello. My name is Marie, and I'm working for the French Grand Est region. So you say that Green Assist is really dedicated to local and regional authorities among the potential actors. So do you plan to have everything in English, or is it possible to submit application in other languages? Because I know that for the French actors, sometimes it's a bit complicated. It is the case in my region, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And another question, in both cases, so we do the application, we've got the services, but at the very end, do we need to provide some, I don't know, some specific deliverables, some specific things, you know? Just to give a return of experience, we just add, in fact, some kind of accompaniment like that with another EU mission, and in fact, it didn't work very, very well. Because between the expectancies of the AU service and what really happened on the ground, there were quite a lot of margin. So maybe it has to be very, very clear what we can expect, what we have to do at the very end, and what we can't expect. Thanks.
Thank you for this question. We will take question per question, so the other person will then have the possibility to answer. We will take your question, but before we will, I would like to ask maybe Gauthier to answer this question, both on the question on the language and then on the expectations.
Thank you, Marie, for these questions. On the language, we have seen requests in other languages, and we are perfectly capable, using AI translation tools, to address those questions. Just one thing that I think it's timely to signal, because you are obviously a public entity. I mean, we are not subject to public procurement. I mean, you do not contract directly with the expert. We do, CINEA. And something I wanted to take the occasion to signal, because again, it goes a long way in terms of simplicity for the local and municipalities. I think it makes a difference. So yes, of course, we can accommodate this request, and we have translated, or we are actually translating the documents that the beneficiary still need to sign, although there is no financial commitment in those two documents. I'm thinking of the assignment fiche, which is a description of the advisory services on the one hand, and the beneficiary charter that describes the triangular relationship between the beneficiary and the expert and ECORIS in that case. So that addresses the first point, I guess. Huh? The second point was about reporting, I guess you said, and how do we make sure that... expectation.
Yeah, and if there are not big discrepancies between what we expect and what we can actually see delivered. And it has to be clear.
What you expect as a beneficiary, and the project that you will deliver yourself, you mean?
No, I mean really regarding the service you provide.
Okay, so
I can take that question. Yeah, I can take that question. We have general, I would say, expectations from the Green Assist project, which have been indicated here. The main aim is to develop a project pipeline and also to to cover, I would say, either environmental improvements or to support environmental projects. So we have no, beyond that, we have no, I would say, specific expectations. There will be a discussion that will take place between ECORIS, the beneficiary, the ones who receive the advisory support, and then the expert to see what is feasible and what is realistic within the scope of the project. So that will be defined in advance, and that will be signed off by everyone, so that there are no misunderstandings on the expectations of the advisory services. And then that will be the basis for the common work that needs to be done to put this project in place. So there are, and then we, of course, would appreciate to also have feedback on then what is accomplished. But there are, beyond that, no, I would say, strong contractual obligations that would render this delivery complex or constraining. No, the idea is to find something which really matches the needs of the beneficiary, but of course within the scope, the general scope of the Green Assist project. Does this reply to your question? Then I would like to invite the gentleman in the back.
Thank you. I'm Alberto Gasparato from the Veneto region. I think actually your colleague already answered my questions in advance, but just to make clear, for the case which Christoph was talking about before, where after you make the request, there is a matchmaking, let's say, with a bid, and the consultancy has to then apply, and the choice is with the service and price. So the price is just for your use, because it's the Green Assist program that manages the pricing and paying the consultancies. So the applicant doesn't really, let's say, need the price. It's more for your use in the process of bidding for the sort of auction.
Yes, yes, indeed. So for the beneficiary, it's free of charge. So we provide the services, and the services are not to be paid for. The payment comes in the end from the LIFE program, and we are dealing with the contractual aspect. So it's also towards the beneficiaries a simplification, because we take on us the administrative burden of all the payments and the contractual aspects, and you receive the services. Of course, we need to agree in advance on what are the terms of this support, what is the timing, what is the deliverables in terms of expectations, so that we have also a sound contractual framework which allows us to manage, I would say, these services in an appropriate way. Please.
Do you already have KPIs to show from results from the Green Assist advisory? For instance, how many could use the results from that advisory to apply, for instance, for a LIFE program, or even an innovation fund from this service that you provide? Thank you.
Yes, so maybe of course, we are closely monitoring the implementation of Green Assist, and we have defined a whole list of KPIs that we follow. So this is something that indeed we closely monitor. For instance, we also monitor the satisfaction of the beneficiaries. So this is also for us very, very important. Maybe, but just directly on your question, and before I pass the floor to Christina on the KPIs. Yeah. The intention of Green Assist is not to help with making applications for LIFE or for the Innovation Fund or for other things. Of course, we don't exclude that the results of the work can create projects that at a later stage could then be funded from LIFE or from the Innovation Fund or from SEV or for any other one. But the purpose is not to specifically prepare the applications, because we would be in a difficult situation, because as CINEA we also have to evaluate the applications, and we cannot at the same time be involved in the preparation of the application and then having to evaluate the projects that we have helped preparing. So therefore there's a clear, I would say, clear wall between the stage of application preparation for which Green Assist cannot be used, and I would say the overall general support services that Green Assist is providing. I don't know, Christina, can you take some examples from KPIs that we...
yeah, sure. So we started Green Assist almost 2 years ago. So it's, in a sense, it's quite new. By the time we set it up, it's been essentially running, the project advisory has been essentially running for 1.5 years, and we only have 9 completed projects, but out of the 9, one has already, straight away after the business advisory that they received, applied for Innovation Fund. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is being evaluated at the moment. So we don't have the results of that yet, but one application has been submitted. A few other projects have already applied for private investment. And that's in the making, so we don't have concrete examples. What our aim is to, after 6 to 9 or 12 months after the completion of the assignment, to follow up with the beneficiaries to see if they have secured investment, or also to check on their environmental impact. So we do have KPIs, but we haven't been at that stage yet. We haven't gotten to that stage yet.
Thank you very much, Christina. And indeed, Green Assist is a relatively young initiative, so on the ultimate assessment of what these services have brought, it's a little bit too early to already draw conclusions on that. We are, of course, very hopeful and have high expectations, but we don't have yet the figures. And maybe then also to come back to the question from Maria from France, in terms of the language, it is clear that we have experts from all over Europe, and then we will try also to match with the beneficiaries experts that have also the linguistic capabilities to interact in as much as possible in the native language of the beneficiaries. I think that's very important, and this is also something that we take into account. So submitting the application is one thing, but I think the most important thing in terms of interaction is to also have an expert that understands the local and the regional situation on the one hand, and also speaks the language of the beneficiary. So this is also something that we can cope with. Please.
Yes, thank you. I have a question, because in the beginning you were talking about, like, one of the challenges for Europe is the commercialization aspect of the technologies that we develop. I was wondering if you as well provide advisory in terms of patenting, because that can sometimes be an issue.
No. I guess the straight answer is no, not on patenting on IPR, because it's really legal services, so we don't provide these kind of services.
Other questions? Yes, please.
My name is Kruno. I'm representing Slavonija Baranja. I'm from Croatia, and actually I would like to point out, maybe to clarify, actually, Green Assist support. Is it actually at a certain point of when project is stuck at a certain point, and the Green Assist can help on that point. So we have to define where we're stuck and how to move on with that support. And how, a second question would be to clarify that how early stage, at how early stage we can expect support from Green Assist. So actually it's not from the from the very beginning, but we have to move to a certain point when we can get that support. Is it right?
Thank you for the question. Gauthier?
Yes, basically you're right. I mean, if the project is stuck at some point, then of course, if it's a good project from an environmental standpoint, then of course the project owner can make use of Green Assist to unlock the situation, to increase the maturity of the project. So effectively, if the project is stuck, this is a good case. But it's not only the case where you can use, or the project promoter can use Green Assist. There might be project going on, okay? And there are still aspects in the project that can be improved from an environmental standpoint. So it's not really about increasing the maturity, but integrating better environmental practices in the project to cover the both situation. In terms of maturity, how early can Green Assist be mobilized? Of course, innovation is always a good thing. I talked about supply chain and these kind of things, but what we look really is, in terms of eligibility, is a capacity of the management team. So if it's a relatively new technology, but we have a strong team behind, then we can accept the request.
Yes, and maybe just to complement that, we can also take up projects that are in relatively early stages, because the advantage of intervening at early stages is that you still have lots of options open, and in order to analyze which is the best way forward, it's good to have the support already from an early stage, rather than coming in at a later stage where a number of decisions have already been taken, which may not have been the optimal decisions. But as soon as there is a credible project in terms of investment, that we really consider that there is potential for investment coming through, then definitely these projects can come and be taken into consideration for Green Assist. I would say early projects, no problem at all. Other questions? Yes, on the left-hand side.
Thank you very much, Claudia Supernland, Steiermark. Maybe I didn't get it, or is it right there is no minimum investment threshold to apply, or is there something like a defined size of the project it needs to have? And then secondly, for a region, could you give some typical examples to have a better picture of what you mean by that sort of projects we could apply for? Some projects you had already, that would be very useful. Thank you.
Maybe Gauthier on the first question, and on the second question, Christina, because we have already a number of examples of projects, so would be good to share them. Gauthier.
Yes, on the minimum amount, I think that we have a minimum amount of 2 million euro of investment, but that's direct investments. As I mentioned, we look at also the, let's say, indirect investment. So, for example, if there are positive ripple through along the supply chain, then we can take that into account.
Yes, and on the project, we indeed have a few examples, more on city level or public-private partnerships in regions. So in France, which will be presented in a bit, but also in Slovenia. And typically, they're in a circular economy, a project of a few million, let's say less than 10 million of investment. and there needs to be, as said, a project promoter. So it could be from a city, so a municipality, or it could be a utility, so a water utility organization, or it could be a public-private partnership in the case of the Slovenian region, where they work together. So the municipality, the regional authority actually works together with a on-the-ground industrial site. So initially, the project promoter is the company in the industrial site. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Christina.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering on the scope of Green Assist. Since starting, how many projects have used the advisory services? Thanks.
Yes, so in total 30, out of which 10 have been completed, and the others are ongoing, but there are quite a few, over 15 in the pipeline, so they will launch very soon. So we're...
Christina again.
Yeah, okay. Well, from when you submit, let's say a month and a half to launch the support. Yeah, just so we can receive the request, screen it, and also it depends on the availabilities a lot. But yeah, month and a half.
That's indeed very short. You see how nimble and we are in terms of organizing this assistance. Other questions? Then for now, I suggest. Sorry, on the right-hand side. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm working for the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region in France, and I had a question about the funding, the Green Assist. Is it interesting for actors looking for EU funds, like only EU funds?
I would say that it's not the focus of Green Assist. As I indicated in the beginning, if, for instance, somebody have already a very specific idea for instance, for a live project, and he would like to have some assistance helping with preparing this application, there are plenty of consultants on the market who do that, and we don't want to step into this business. We don't want to crowd out this existing business. So it's not for helping to support, to find money for individual projects under individual calls. Now, if there is a more broad assessment of the need for to close the funding gap, that can include also support from EU funds in general, there indeed Green Assist can support. But if it is very much focused on specific programs and specific application, then the project is outside the scope of Green Assist. Thank you. Other questions, please? In view of the evolving priorities of the Commission, will the scope of Green Assist evolve? And then she said, for instance, agriculture, something like that.
Is it not already covered within the scope?
It is to a certain extent, but the question
It's a good question, hence the debate. What I imagine is going to happen is that as this investment focus sharpens, we will then see the areas. We will get a better and more granular picture of where we see the advisory support that is needed. And then I hope that we can then align that with the Green Assist focus. We were, to sort of pull the curtains back a bit. We're having, as you may have noticed, one of the priorities for the incoming Commission, once it's finally approved by Parliament and so on, is a water resilient action and strategy. And we need to understand in as much granularity as possible what that means in terms of investment gaps. And it's easy to say these things, and we have some numbers broadly around things like, I showed you the number earlier, our aggregated number based on available Eurostat data and OECD data and so forth about what this water investment gap is in Europe. But we need to get beneath that and understand, for example, in Spain, what is actually needed. What's needed around agricultural water efficiency investments, what's needed around improved wastewater treatment infrastructure, what's needed around flood prevention and control infrastructure. And then we need to understand why there's where there are investment gaps, why they are there. Because it's not always about just a lack of money. Often that's not the problem. The money's there. The money's not getting to the projects. And then we come to programs like Green Assist, which can then address some of these bottlenecks that we see in capacity and skills and so forth. So what I imagine with this focus that we will get a little sharper in our picture. I mean, we're always trying to do that, but the pressure will be there to do it better and faster under the next Commission mandate. That's a bit of a broad answer, but so the answer generally is, yes, I think we would see some of this emerge and then help frame some of the focus of the Green Assist program. But the reason, if you see, I'll be totally frank, the reason you see me slightly skirting around the answer is because I need them to tell me, because I'm not aware of how much we can change your mandate on the move for your focus. So that's an internal discussion, which we probably shouldn't have under an open mic. But here's a comment.
I just wanted to add that sometimes we disregard the definition of agriculture and other aspects, and we follow the nature. So, for example, we have been also exploring to find interesting projects in areas that maybe are not so very popular and is more difficult to have a bankable project in this area. So, for example, we in the part of natural capital and biodiversity, we're looking on forestry and on soil. And when you enter soil, then you also enter very often agriculture. We didn't have a good project yet, but soil goes to various sectors, and then I think when we have really a good project that contributes to the environmental objectives, then I think they will be not offended to get advisory services from us. But basically, we are located also with DG Environment, so the priority is always with the environment.
And maybe also to illustrate how we are also flexible and adapting to evolving demands is that we had recently also refocused the scope of Green Assist in relation to sustainable finance and taxonomy, which is also a political priority which entered into operation recently. So we do adapt to emerging political priorities, and we are looking very much forward to what will be happening in the coming months, and we have an open mind for that from the side of CINEA at least.
Very good.
So I think we maybe now decide finally to have our coffee break, our well-deserved coffee break. It's great to have so many questions. It shows that there is a real interest, and I suggest that we resume at 5 to 11 for a debate with people that have been involved with Green Assist on the ground. So stay on for the debate afterwards. The coffee is served here outside. So let's continue our session, and as I have announced, now we change a little bit the configuration, and you also see a change in the seating. In the agenda, it is indicated that we have now a debate on something that happens very concretely with Green Assist on individual projects, and we have here both a beneficiary and a expert, and it will more be something like a friendly chat than a debate. But I think it's useful for you also to hear some witnesses from the ground, and hopefully you will find this very useful. So it's my very pleasure, and I would really like to thank Hugo Delahaye. He's European project manager at the Ecological Transition Department in the city of Roubaix in the north of France. And he's responsible for EU projects dealing with topics related to the ecological transition. And he's here in the capacity of a receiver of support from Green Assist. And then I'm also delighted to present to you Ligea Speciale. She's project leader at Seeds Consulting and an environmental engineer with extensive experience in EU law and also having an academic background in environmental planning. And she has built over 10 years strong skills in the fields of sustainable development, including zero pollution technologies, circular economy, recycling, and sustainable finance. And obviously, you will have understood, Ligea is an expert on the roster of Green Assist. And by the way, congratulations to have made it to the roster of experts of Green Assist. Now, these Hugo and Ligea come from two different projects, one from the public and one from the private sector, and these projects are also at different stages. Hugo's project is still in the preparation stage, whereas the project from Ligea is already closed. I think it was closed just before the summer break. So we will not go into the very technical aspects of these two projects, but more also trying to understand how the interaction with Green Assist has been organized and have some feedback from that. So I would like to start to invite both of you to, if you could briefly describe your projects, and also can you also say a word about the role you have played and maybe also about your organization. Hugo, first to you.
So thanks a lot for having me today. It's working? Yeah, perfect. So yes, as said previously, I'm Hugo Delahaye, working for the Ecological Transition Department of the city of Roubaix. Like our organization, it's a city, so city level, so the lowest administrative level in French administration hierarchy, if I can say it like this. We have all a strategy about how we can renew also the city, because we have a lot of brownfields, wastelands, and so on, and to do it like in a circular way. And it means like to reuse these brownfields and wasteland to develop more circular economy activities. So it's a tool for economic development, but also like for ecological transition. And so the project we applied to for Green Assist, it's how we can be helped to go further, to identify, to assess what we did, for example, on the previous project, which is like a former textile factory turned into a circular hub, so with a pool of enterprises that are all of them working in a circular way, from eco-design to upcycling to recycling to all these kind of things related to circular economy, and to replicate it and to go further. So it's like short sum up.
Thank you. Thank you. It very clearly frames your project and also your organization. Thank you, Hugo. Ligea.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for having me. So in very short, what I do in general, I provide technical advisory, and this can be for EU environmental law here in Brussels for stakeholders here, but especially in the implementation side for different type of actors, which can be private companies or public entities. And in this specific project, basically the company wanted to assess the feasibility of improving their circular economy contributions, and they wanted to have some technical advisory to understand what were the potentials for them to invest and to improve their footprint in that sense. So it was really, let's say, focused on finding, both in terms of regulations, the constraints, but also in terms of technical feasibility, which kind of options they had in front of them.
Thank you. So now you have already a first presentation of the project. Maybe first question to Hugo. So how do you come across Green Assist? And also, why do you think that Green Assist would be well suited to help your project?
So if we discovered the Green Assist like support, it's thanks to our companion in the Circular Cities and Region Initiative companion that help us like to identify all these kind of programs that can support our actions and activities in favor of circular economy. And also I discovered Green Assist like last year, because I attended few meetings, like two meetings, where they presented like the Green Assist like project and how it can support like a lot of different like actors and stakeholders like to go further in their greener investment, greener activities and things like this. So yeah, it's through this kind of events and also this kind of relations thanks to the CCRI. And so the second part of the question was, I already forgot.
No, why do you think that Green Assist would be well suited to help your project?
Oh, yes. So yeah, it perfectly fits our needs, in fact, because like, as I said really shortly at the beginning, it's like we already benefit from another program, and so we're gonna have like some like outcome from this. And because it works pretty well, this kind of programs on like a former brownfield, we thought, and I'm sure, I would say, that the support of Green Assist and like if we can really express our needs to the experts, and if it's understood correctly, and if we can work together, it will help like to go further, to complement things, and to go further on some topics that are already in our like circular projects pipeline for the city of Roubaix.
Thank you. And as you are in an early stage of applying, because we have been explaining the process, but from your perspective, what is your assessment of the process until now in terms of how did you interact with Ecoris, for instance? How easy was it to apply? How flexible are I would say in terms of addressing your needs? So it would be good to have your perspective on that.
Yeah, I will say really flexible. First, I need to apologize to Christina, because like we took a lot of time sometimes like to really understand how we can like how can I say construct our application. So yes, if I say thank you, it's because it was really flexible. So we had like some feedbacks with Christina, for example, to fine-tune some aspects because sometimes when you are working for your project, in your project, you don't realize that it's not really something that can be understood by everybody if it's just written on a paper. So like we discussed a lot. We had like some feedbacks through like a documents where I had some comments. So what do you mean by this? Okay, so we could we went further on this remarks and questions, and yeah, it was really easy to apply. To be honest, it's like you have like templates with some, like you have to tick some boxes to see exactly where, in which kind of scope you are. For example, if it's much more about energy or circular economy. In our case, it was circular economy, and so it's really also interesting, this kind of application, because it's not that long, but it's well structured, so you can see exactly where you are, and so it helped us also like to set the limits of the help, of the support that we want from Green Assist, so we could better fine-tune also like our specific needs to really see like in which box it goes and so on. So it was really interesting to have like this really short, flexible, and also well-structured templates to go further on our application.
Thanks, that's very interesting to hear. Then maybe to Ligea, because you come from a different perspective than Hugo. You are an expert. Now, from your perspective, how was the work between you and the beneficiary? How was it organized? So for how long did you provide advice, in which areas? And there's also, how did you interact with them? Was it physical? Can you explain a bit that perspective? Thank you.
Yes, sure. So the way we structured the project was, well, as we do normally now, a sort of mix between physical meetings and, maybe Teams meetings and some virtual interactions in between. So we decided to have a first kickoff meeting all together with the company to see the technology, to see the actual case that we were going to assess in practice. So we had a full field trip for one day. And then we went through work at a distance, and it was step by step. So in order to make sure that we would reach the goal together and avoid what was said in the first part of the meeting, that you have some expectations that you eventually do not reach, we try to have at least twice in between the assignment a moment where we would sit down, have a read together of the report that we were writing in this specific case, and see whether we were going in the right direction or not. We had a field trip in between, because the report included as well laboratory analysis to assess the characteristics and the composition of the waste that we were assessing, and then a final meeting with the presentation of the project at the end. And the idea, again, was to make sure that there was a correct link and communication of what was inside, what they asked for, and which type of answers they were receiving, especially because the way you see things when you work on the field is very practical, so not necessarily a more high-level discussion can really speak to the project. So the idea was really to try to touch base at the end. And it went very well. It's true that what also you were saying, that you need to take some time at the beginning to understand exactly what you are looking for as a beneficiary, and that's not necessarily obvious. So you need to really discuss, and I think as well this is what Equidis was doing, to really try to shape the project since the beginning in the right way, and the interaction with the beneficiary and the expert before the actual start of the process was I think a good way to make sure that then everything starts in the right way. And but that it went quite well, and we communicated all along the project with this, let's say, 3 main steps: beginning, midway, and at the end.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So you said that the project went quite well. Now, what advice would you give to the people in the room on how to set up such a project that is really successful?
So I think to basically trust the process, in the sense that maybe it looks like it takes time to get where you want to get, but if you provide the content and provide the time and the effort, you will get there. So the main suggestion is to really try first internally to understand where you want to go, what you want to achieve, and then try to shape it in the best way in the template that you were mentioning, and signing down all the deliverables that you are really looking forward to get, so that it can be clear also for the expert what you are looking for, and in practice what you want to achieve out of the project.
Thank you. That's very useful advice. And maybe we can now turn to the dimension of investment, which is one of the focus areas of Green Assist. Hugo, you're still in an early stage yet, but in terms of investment, how do you think that Green Assist will help you with having these really investments on the ground in your project?
Yes, so it's gonna help us on different aspects. The first one is like the expert support for our project. It will help us in our case to better understand if the project that I mentioned before, that is quite successful for the moment, is worth to be replicated, and also to work on which kind of buildings in the cities can foster a similar initiative. So in this aspect, and also so it's gonna help us also to attract, I think, investments, so private investment, and also maybe public investment from private public, I don't know if it's the word in English, partners, because in our case, it's gonna help us to do this kind of feasibility study of the approach that we are going to replicate through the city of Roubaix, that is to have different pools, clusters, hubs related to the circular economy, but in a way of economic development. And so it's gonna help us as a public authority to go further on some aspect that usually I think we don't even know that it can be possible for our local authorities. So I think it broadens our mind, I would say, to have this external expert to be to go much more in detail on some aspect that, to be honest, I think that internally we don't have the knowledge to achieve this kind of project.
Yes, thank you. Interesting that you mentioned that you expect this initiative also to allow to extract additional external investment, because this is indeed something that we also want to hope to trigger with Green Assist. Now, also still on the issue of impacts. Now, at the end of the project, Ligea, could you indicate to which extent the initial expectations of the beneficiaries have materialized, and what are then the concrete impacts of your intervention, and how have things changed compared to how they would have gone without your intervention?
So just to maybe give a couple more details on the project so that it can be clear what I'm talking about. The project wanted to assess the feasibility to improve circularity of sterilized waste. So let's take infectious waste from hospital or in general healthcare center. You sterilize to a specific technology, and then you reduce the volume and you abate all the bacteriological impacts. And you create a type of waste that is very similar to a mixed municipal waste at the end of the day. But you have some constraints, both from regulatory and from technical aspects, that are not so easy to, let's say, overcome at the moment. So the company really wanted to understand what they could do and what were the type of additional services that they could provide to their customers when they provide the technology in order to help them understand how to be better in circularity. So I think this is what at first we gave them, some additional knowledge that they didn't have, because of course you focus on the technology, and especially when you work in the healthcare sector, your main goal is to make sure that the infectious aspect is taken care of. It's not this type of subsector in waste management where you have done already a lot in terms of circularity, because you have other goals to begin with. So I think the main point was we started with knowledge about the European legislation, but also what it's done in waste management activities around and their possibilities. And then we explored also some additional information related specifically to a case study that we decided to pick in order to, let's say, make it work into a single study. So we went to Paris to a hospital where the technology is implemented, and we made this laboratory analysis to understand what type of waste it was. So we helped them understand more in details what is the outcome of their process, which they had not done until that moment. And we tried then to start from that case study and to make it into a sort of more general assessment on what you could do, so to try to avoid that the result would only count for this specific case, and that it would be a bit more replicable. So if they go to someone else, some other customer, they know which type of context they need in order to make sure that you can offer some options. So I think at the end what they have is they have a starting point to understand where to push and which type of outcomes can fit to a specific customer case. So this is the main outcome, I would say.
Thank you. Very interesting. So what you're saying is that you brought knowledge, you developed a very specific case, which then was the basis for replication on a larger scale, then meaning also a bigger impact of what you're doing. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that. Maybe then we can touch upon a different subject, and so back to Hugo. Because when we look at our portfolio of projects, we see that most of them come from the private sector. Very few applications we received so far from the public sector, whereas we also know that in the public sector, the investments needs are very, very important. So as you are from the public sector, what is your explanation maybe for this lack of demand, and what would be your advice also to the people in the room to address this issue?
Yeah, so as an employee of a local authority, I would say that if there is a lack of demand from public sector, it's because like the technicians, like your colleagues working on really technical aspects of the project, sometimes they don't have this reflex to ask like a support at the European level. So I think for me it will be one of the explanations. Sometimes, for example, I will take like a really, my case, but in France, for example, a lot of local authorities have much more like the reflex to ask like for national support programs and not always to European ones. But it's not a generality at all, it's just my conclusion, I would say. And I think so it's not a lack of communication, like from CINEA. I think it's much more like a lack of, not of interest, but I would say lack of knowledge. Sometimes, like the local authorities, they don't think it's for them. They are a bit afraid of like the application process. They say, oh no, it's in English, so I'm a bit afraid, and I don't think it's going to be for me, because as I say, it's much more like a reflex for local authorities to work with the regional or national support, and it's also, I would say, a bit like sad, because that's quite easy to do, in fact. And if you have in your team someone that is able like to speak English, at least to just write in English, it can be possible. It's not that difficult, to be honest. I was also really surprised when I applied that it's gonna be like that simple.
Thank you. And then maybe a last question from my side, at least, to Ligea. From your experience, what arguments or what elements can you bring to here the representatives of regional and local authorities to convince their counterparts, their constituencies to take up Green Assist? Is there, for instance, anything that you say I'm particularly proud of that you could share with the people in the audience so that they can pick this up as an argument back home and in their constituencies to promote Green Assist?
I think I'm echoing what you are saying, meaning that for what is true for local authorities, sometimes also true for relatively small companies. So if we're not talking about corporate world, but we're talking about a company that maybe lives locally, sometimes either the resources are not there to try to spend time and effort into doing what Green Assist can do for you. So if I'm thinking about our specific case, I'm sure that they wouldn't go through the same process if they would not have had somebody from outside spending the time and the effort to do it. So the tool is really that if you have an idea, if you have a goal, if you want your company to go somewhere else from where it is, this is a very easy to use tool to understand what you need and how to get there. So for me, it's basically the same advice, that it's actually a lot easier than you would think as a company to access and then to actually get the benefits out of the process itself.
Thank you. Please, Hugo, you can continue.
Yeah, I just want to add something that I forgot, I'm sorry. I would say also that there is kind of something, if there is a lack for me, it's sometimes like the information that you have about Green Assist and this kind of support, it stays on the I would say, the department in charge of European affairs, for example. And also the good thing is to make this information leaking to the other departments that are in charge of infrastructures and so on. So I think also it's one of the reasons sometimes that this kind of departments can be not that much in contact, and so that's why, for example, it can be difficult for like technicians in the infrastructure department of your administration to know that it exists. In Roubaix, for example, it has been possible because I'm really close to the person in charge of all the fundings and support and so on. We have a really good relationship because we are a really small and agile team, but it's a really specific case, I think, in our case.
Thank you. So your message is break through the silos and try it. That's also a strong message. I would like to conclude. Is there anybody from the audience who would like to ask a question to our two experts here? Yes, please.
Hello. Yes, I have a question concerning DNSH for both of you. For Hugo, do you have any needs for, how to say, concerning DNSH norms applied to your project?
DNSH means do no significant harm.
And Ligea, did you have to, on the other end, did you have to provide?
I can start if you
want.
So, let's say that the do no significant harm is now encompassing everything you do when you do environmental law in the EU. So, until, let's say, starting from last year, it became internalized. So basically, whatever assessment you're doing for environmental objectives, you take this into account. So for example, for this, of course, when we were thinking about how to improve circularity, we would also take into account other aspects which are in the final assessment for the client, for example, on whether the same option would also bring some climate benefits, or whether the same option could have some climate impacts, for example, which is normally circular economy and greenhouse gas emissions are very linked. But then you can, of course, include also the other objectives. So that's definitely something that we took into account.
So if I understood correctly, I will try an answer. I would say that, for example, in our case, it was circular economy-oriented project. It is a circular economy-oriented project, but it also takes into account, obviously, greenhouse gases emissions and also like biodiversity, because we're speaking about brownfields. So yeah, if it's an answer, or correct answer at least.
Okay, thank you. I suggest then that we have one more question, and then we will pass on to the next point, please.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, when, in case during that consultancy process you decide to not go on with the project, to stop it, is there any punishment, repayment of consultants you have already consumed because of not really realizing the project at the end?
I think that's more an administrative question than a question to the colleagues, but the answer is clearly no, because there is an agreement at a point in time to implement a certain activity together with the consultant. If then it turns out that the development of this work is not as expected, the projects can be discontinued at any time, and there is no penalty whatsoever. So there is no risk also for the beneficiaries. Of course, we prefer the projects to be succeeding, and if the problem is on our side, for instance, because the expert would not have the right expertise, we are also flexible and trying maybe to find with, I would say, complementary expertise to address your needs, but there is no penalty in case the project would not materialize. So I would like to thank very much Hugo and Ligea. Maybe a round of applause for the two experts. And now I'm passing the floor to Sarah. Sarah is a communication advisor in CINEA. She has been the driving force behind this event, but also behind lots of communication activities on Green Assist. And Sarah, the floor is yours to address the point on the promotion of Green Assist. Please.
Thank you very much, Mark, and good morning to everyone. So yes, I'm Sarah Gallarre, and as Mark was saying, I'm the responsible person of doing the communication and the promotion of Green Assist. So as you can imagine, my session will focus basically on communication and how to promote this. I put together a slide where we can see the material that is already available about this initiative, and then we will see together how we can cooperate for you to be able to promote this initiative also in your cities and regions. No? So first, we see this first item, which is the info sheet for beneficiaries that you have already seen because I distributed several copies in your different places. And I have to say that we were saying that this initiative was created 2 years ago from scratch. No one knew about it, so it was super urgent for us to start raising awareness about this Green Assist initiative and to give the basic information. So this is basically this product, a very short one-pager communication product with all the main information. So what it is about, who is targeting, which sectors, how to apply, who can apply, and obviously the different links to get to know more information. Then, again, on this basis of no one knows about this, we needed to rely a lot on multipliers, which can be also your case in this occasion. No? So in order to facilitate the role of these multipliers when passing out our message to their networks, we decided to create a communication toolkit because we thought it was very much needed in order to have consistency in visuals, in messages, in material, and so on. So this communication toolkit, which is, of course, still available, has templates for everything. All the content is there ready to use, and basically it's literally copy-pasting. Of course, we can, adapt the messages to the specific audience, but it will be very simple for you as multipliers to use everything that there is there. Templates for newsletters, templates for articles, templates for social media posts on X, on LinkedIn, everywhere. And as I was saying, everything with the right message and with plenty of visuals for you to use in different platforms. So this is basically to make it easier for you, because we know that the easiest is for someone, the more chances we have that they will pass our message. So then here we have a bit of what is the information available, how you can communicate about this. And then I have two last points, the web articles and the repository of projects. That comes a bit to help to the question that the colleague over there was asking. What type of projects have been already benefiting from Green Assist? No? So in this sense, as soon as we started to get projects completed, we decided to write articles about that so people can know where Green Assist is actually participating. So in this case, one article means one article about one project where we explain the type of project, what they were the challenges that they were facing when they decided to apply to Green Assist, how Green Assist contributed with an expert, what did they do together, for how long. So this kind of more detailed information in different sectors. So with these web articles, because of course we cannot expect anyone to read all the articles, we decided to create the repository of projects where you will have a sort of table with the main information of the projects, like name, country, duration, type of advisory, and then you can have a quicker look. And if you see something that interests you particularly for your topic, then you can click and read the article. But it will be a much more user-friendly platform. So, yeah, in order to promote all this material, we need the channels. This is the other row that I put here in the slide. Let's start with the website, web page, because in CINEA's website, we have a specific section on Green Assist, where you can find all the material, not only the things that I was saying before, but really everything. We like it to be like a one-stop shop, and there is everything there, all the promotion, communication material, all the background information, the policy context, specific events, frequently asked questions, the different steps for beneficiaries to apply, like really guided, like your journey with Green Assist. So everything is there, so please feel to consult it. And we even have a sort of formulaire, a contact form, for those that can be potential beneficiaries, but they don't dare or they don't know how to start with. You just do the formulaire, and you will reach out directly to our colleagues, Gauthier, Christophe, anyone, and they will gladly help you to continue with the request. Then, as you can imagine, of course, one of the main channels is social media. And besides using CINEA's accounts and also the Environment's accounts on LinkedIn, on X, and everywhere, I wanted to put here the focus on LinkedIn, because here we have a specific page only on Green Assist. So this is the place where you will get updates, news, events, quotes from beneficiaries, and all this without having any interference from other programs by CINEA or other policies from the environment. It's only focusing on this. So I really encourage you all to follow the page. Because also very often we post interesting facts, not only about Green Assist, but in general we do quizzes, we do polls, for instance, something like, do you know how much plastic was recycled last year in the EU, So you can learn, besides Green Assist, some other things. Then still on social media, something that I wanted to highlight as well is the YouTube channel. Here we are on the YouTube channel of CINEA, but we have a specific playlist where we have Green Assist videos. And they are mostly recordings of info sessions that we did online. For instance, this event today will also be there. But we also have shorter videos. Like, for instance, I remember there is one with 6 minutes. You get to know everything about Green Assist. So this is another format, because maybe not everyone wants to read this kind of info sheet, and they prefer to have a video. So this is also some material that we have available. And finally, I added here also events, because it's in our interest to reach beyond Brussels. We want to communicate to everyone in the EU. So the other way to do this is to moving around and be present at key events. And we do so by having presentations, having speakers in different panels, or even having stands in different fairs or different exhibitions and this kind of thing. So we try to be as present as possible everywhere. And I wanted to mention this one in particular because if you have something in mind and an event that you think that Green Assist can fit, please contact us because we will be more than happy to participate. So now that we did an overview on the communication resources, we can pass to see how you, as multipliers, can promote this in your regions, in your cities, about Green Assist. So this is, I mean, I don't know if there are communication experts in the room today, but even if not, you will see that this is these are very, very easy tasks that will be part of any communication officer day, you know. So nothing too extraordinary or revolutionary here, but things not to forget, because we count on you as multipliers, so it will be like a reminder for you to understand that there are certain things that we have to respect. I put, for instance, the visual identity and the messages, mostly because we would like potential beneficiaries to understand and perceive Green Assist in the same way, regardless the source. Even if it's us promoting it, if it's DG Environment, if it's you, they always need to get the same type of information with the same branding for them to really easily identify what we are talking about and to get the right message. And again, I would like to highlight here that, of course, the message can be targeted to the specific audience, but the global overview has to remain the same. Then I put material and channels. This is something that all the communication people in your offices will know. I mean, what you can do with the material that I just said, promote it in events, put it in newsletter, promote it also on social media and so on. But then maybe I will make a special point on this part of webinars, because it's a bit more special, and this could be a way of us cooperating with you. Because we understand that sometimes a post on social media or a newsletter item, it doesn't go through, you know, especially to these people that they are very far away from Brussels. So sometimes we are playing a lot with this EU jargon, so let's make it easier for them. And in this sense, we offer the option of doing webinars, very short ones, 30, 40 minutes, with a particular audience. And by particular audience, I mean that they have to be really potential beneficiaries, so companies or organizations that they already have a solid sustainable project within the topics that we have been mentioning, the sections, environment and so on. And then in that case, we will be more than happy to organize something together and not only do a presentation from our side, but also to give them the chance to ask specific questions on their concrete case, on their concrete project, for them to be able to get the answers, and maybe, why not, start with an assignment. So this is also a bit, we just started to do this. We started with the region of Navarra, which, by the way, is my region, so this probably helped. And we did it before the summer, so we organized this. I think it was maximum 40 minutes. And it was very nice because people understood it much better than any written communication material. And yeah, we already saw some leads, you know, people asking back more follow-up questions, you know, like, and even considering for real to place a request. And then this brings me to the last point, which is feedback. Is the last, but probably the most important one of my part, but also maybe of the whole event, because this is something that we want to get out of this event. You know, we need your feedback, to adapt also our material. Because as Mark was saying, we want to use this event as the first event of many others, first contact of many others, in which we can exchange, we can cooperate with each other in a win-win situation. We have initiatives that we want to convey and inform about to the end beneficiary. Your people in your cities and regions, they can benefit from that. And then you are in the middle as the intermediaries, as the messenger. So the easiest it is for you to pass the message, the better for everyone. No? So for that reason, I really like to invite you to take on this Slido poll. You know, it's something very easy. It will take you 5 minutes, really, no more than that, with very easy questions about your normal relation with your network, how you communicate, in which language, in which format, if you do events, if not, what are the topics that they are more interested in, and these kind of things. And this, as I was saying, will be super valuable for us to adapt our communication material, to make it easier for you, and in the end of the day, to reach out in an easier way and in bigger in numbers with the end of potential beneficiaries. So voilà, just maybe one more thing. This survey is not only about Green Assist, because we want to expand this beyond Green Assist. We want to do it about CINEA in general, because we have an agency with a lot of funding programs and grants. So we also would like to know if you will be particularly interested in other programs, you know. So it goes beyond Green Assist. You will see the questions will guide you. But I insist, please take the survey and let us know, because I think we will all benefit from that. And with this, I stop here. Thank you very much for coming, for listening, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we are very accessible, we are very available, so don't hesitate if you have questions or you want to establish any type of cooperation. We are super open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for your engaging presentation. Any questions to Sarah on promotion aspects of Green Assist? If that is not the case, then I also would like to give you the last opportunity to ask any other questions that you may have had. We have had already lots of questions, but if you have any others, yes, please.
Hello, good morning. My name is Sumili. I work for the City of Berlin, which is also a state, one of the 16 Länder in Germany. And I was wondering, because I just had a quick chat with Kevin Flowers during the coffee break, where do we put this program for us, especially for those countries who are federal? And I was just wondering, because we have a lot of national programs, we are a state, we are funding ourselves. So we are also advising companies and also non-governmental organizations ourselves. And we have also advisory companies in the big city. We're a huge city, a cosmopolitan city. Also the big companies are working in our city. So I was just wondering, where can I put this program? How can I promote this program back home? Because it's a very much, the question is, the lack of capacity is a big issue, and people are asking, where's the benefit to use such a program where we have national programs, local programs, other experts who are living within the city and who are more technically also involved. So I'm just, yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's a very good question. And what I wanted to say maybe very, very clearly is that we don't want Green Assist to replace or to crowd out existing services. We want Green Assist to complement what is there already. And this is why Gauthier indicated it. We had already on our level a kind of a best fit check. And if we see, if a request comes in and we see that this is more suitable for other advisory initiatives, because at the European level we have also lots of advisory initiatives, then we deviate it to the other initiative. We have no problem with that. There are so many, I would say, demands that we should not, I would say, step into the fields of colleagues that are more or services that are more specialized on specific topics. And I think the same goes with respect to national advisory services. If at the national level you would have issues with capacity of your services, then we can supplement that. Or if you would have a need for very specialized expertise in a domain for which you don't have immediately available the experts, then why not tapping into the European base of experts to see if if we can find expertise that then complements also your advisory. And we'd also have no problem at all of working together, for instance, advisory from organized from the national level with some ad hoc support organized by Green Assist to complement and to have a package that fully addresses the needs also of your beneficiary. So think of it in terms of what we do is complementary to what exists already, But as also Kevin has indicated, the needs are so big that definitely there is scope for both national initiatives and also European initiatives complementing that. I don't know, Kevin, if you want to add to that. No? Hugo, please.
And also I would say that it complements and it makes lives way easier for example, the public procurement team, because we don't have to go through a public procurement for this kind of expertise. So it's also to, at least in our case, it helps our colleagues also like to go faster on some aspect that would have been much more difficult, like our local level in our own organization. So yeah.
Yes, thank you, Hugo, to emphasize that aspect. Other questions? Yes, please.
I would like to ask you rather whether there is a maximum number of projects that any regional authority can apply, and additionally, are there all programs and projects that are supported through Green Assist actually from CINEA aspect covered? So, for example, Connecting Europe facility, is it, and Horizon, are they all projects from that programs are all covered through that Green Assist advisories? For example, there is some kind of traditional projects that we have, and we would like to evaluate whether they are from transport aspect, whether they are good enough to put it, to apply it with that aspect, do not significant harm criteria. So we would like to see whether that traditional projects can be refurbished in a way through that Green Assist advisory.
Yes, thank you for the question. On the first part, no, there is no threshold for the number of projects per region. This is not a factor that we take into consideration. On the question of the traditional projects, so in general, indeed, Green Assist can support projects in the traditional sectors of transport, industry, energy, and so on, but with a focus on improving their environmental dimension. For instance, to help these projects also comply with the do no significant harm principle. But that's different from helping applying the projects to get funding, for instance, for the Connecting Europe facility or from the Horizon Europe fund. This we don't do. But we help the projects with the environmental dimension and also to make these, I would say, environmental features of these projects to make them bankable, because it is the return on investment is not always evident, and our experts can also help to find, I would say, the appropriate framework so that also the private sectors can see the benefit of investing in environmental features of these traditional projects. I hope this answers your question. Are there any other questions? If not, then I think we are close to the end of this event. It was really great for us to see so many Brussels offices coming together. Also, your presence indicates that you pay a lot of attention and importance to the European policies and initiatives. and that is really great because from Brussels we often have difficulties to reach out beyond the Brussels bubble, and you can really help us to spread the word about lots of good things that Europe is doing. Now, we have learned about the huge investment gap that we are faced with in the EU, and this is now really on the forefront of the agenda. And we also have seen that Green Assist, with all, I would say, its modest scale, but is something that can also contribute to that and facilitate also this investment for aspects which are not so evident, in particular in relating to sustainability and environment. And we have also seen that Green Assist is something that easy to apply, that has also still plenty of capacity to step up the contribution that we can make to this objective of creating pipelines of profitable and environmentally friendly projects. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to spread the word on Green Assist. And with the tools that Sarah has mentioned, we hope that you will be using them to distribute throughout your networks the information on Green Assist. We will send at the end of maybe this afternoon or later this week, a full presentation, not only with the recording of this event, but also with lots of information that you can use to multiply Green Assist. And we will also send you a form where we would need to have your explicit agreement to continue to be informed about initiatives as, I would say, part of this group of Brussels-based offices of EU representations, because we take data protection very much, I would say, as a priority into account. And without your explicit consent, we will not contact you anymore. So if you want to continue to be aware of similar initiatives, so please flag that explicitly in this form, and then this will maybe be an opportunity for future encounters to which I look very much forward. So let me conclude to thank, first of all, you for your presence here, for your interest. I also would like to give my special thanks to Hugo and Ligea for coming here and bringing their witnesses about what they have been doing in the context of Green Assist. Also, a lot of thanks to my colleagues who have been driving Green Assist for 2 years with great results, I have to say. Thanks to ECRIS also for the excellent cooperation. And last but not least, thanks to Kevin for helping us and framing us in implementing Green Assist and driving this forward. So thanks to all of you, and have a good end of the day and good afternoon.